It's now official that Binance has sold off a massive amount of Bitcoin, which has suppressed the price. There's some really exciting news about this now. I reported on this just yesterday. Yesterday, it was still a conspiracy theory. Now we see that Binance is indeed offloading a massive amount of Bitcoin. Also, Cathie Wood has released her Big Ideas 2025 report, and she's talking about how the likelihood of a $1.5 million price has increased. Of course, not $1.5 million for the dollar, but a Bitcoin price of $1.5 million. Look up here, the moon. That's where Bitcoin will go soon, and then we won't see a bank run, but we will see a gold run. And it's so crazy, there are now more and more banks, more custody service providers that are getting into trouble because people want to withdraw their gold because they realize, hey, shit, I need my gold. There are global issues like tariffs, but also people who just don't trust custodial services anymore because we all know there's way more paper gold in circulation than there is physical gold. And what's going on here is an absolute shocker. But first, let's take a look at Binance, which is just a major trading platform here. And as we can see now, Binance has updated its proof of reserves for February 2025. So here you can just see the holdings from Binance. And now it's been proven that Binance has sold 8 billion of its company-held cryptocurrencies since the beginning of 2025. As I already mentioned, Binance has been selling off company assets all month, and Coinbase has been buying here. Binance has sold 4 billion in Bitcoin here. Overall, they've sold 8 billion of the 14 billion. They hold in corporate assets, and that's quite a hefty amount. And now there are also speculations about why Binance sold exactly this amount here. Here it says that Binance paid its fine of $4.3 billion to the Department of Justice by selling cryptocurrencies. So Binance had the story here with CZ where Binance was sued and then CZ went to prison. Now there is basically an assumption that exactly the 4.3 billion that were traded here were made with cryptocurrencies, i.e. Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, that they are being used to pay the fine here. Binance owes the US Department of Justice $4.3 billion in fines and had to pay this by March 2025 in the form of forfeited assets, based on their proof of reserves from January 1st, 2025 to February 1st, 2025 from Bitcoin, XRP, and Solana if they were sold based on today's prices. At the beginning of the month, this was probably higher, but here are the following values. Bitcoin is at $370 million. Solana is at $3.4 billion, and XRP is at $230 million. And in total, it's about 4 to 4.3 billion US dollars. And then it says, here are the reserve certificates, do the math yourself. And here it is simply assumed that the sold Bitcoin. And who knows what else is being sold, other cryptocurrencies that are being used to pay back the fines that Binance has to cover. So, we definitely saw a lot of selling pressure in January because of this whole Binance situation. A lot of people are now wondering, okay, why did the price drop? Now we probably know that Binance might have been involved in this as well. Another very interesting statement was from David Bailey, who actually says that the US government owns more Bitcoin than is publicly known, and that it is held by authorities outside of the US Marshals. I don't think anyone can get a complete picture. And that is also what very, very many people suspect, that the official Bitcoin holdings of many nations are not the correct Bitcoin holdings. It would be pretty foolish for a nation to reveal all its Bitcoin holdings. But on the other hand, we also have what you might call functioning democracies. That's where it gets tricky to hide any Bitcoin holdings. That means, rather, in monarchies such as Bhutan or in some communist countries, where the government is perhaps more top-down like in China, it is more likely that many, many more Bitcoin holdings are hidden in the background as they are publicly known. But that could definitely be the case in the US as well. And now there are voices like David Bailey saying, hey, the US definitely has more Bitcoin than they're letting on. And we're about to get to that now. Cathie Wood's ultra-bullish Bitcoin prediction. I was just about to look for the mooning, but it's not even here anymore. It's out of the way now. Before we get to Cathie Wood's ultra-bullish Bitcoin prediction, let's take a look at what's going on with gold right now, because that's super relevant. I've also reported that the Bank of England is currently facing delivery issues, and it's taking several months to withdraw gold from there. A lot of people are scared of tariffs, and many want to get their hands on their gold because they're worried about turbulence. And that's why I always say, folks, if you have anything gold, Bitcoin, or other things, keep it in self-custody. So here's the big call again. Get yourself a Bitcoin hardware wallet. I'm putting a link down here to a dresser showing you how you can easily, safely, and simply hold Bitcoin without having any third-party risk. You won't have to do that at some point when the Bitcoin price goes up and somehow the stock markets are about to collapse. Or when we head into a bear market, you shouldn't have to worry about your Bitcoin because you already have all your Bitcoin secured. And then you won't end up in a situation like what's happening with gold right now, where more and more banks and custodial services are failing. And now it's coming out, hey crap, this whole thing might be a Ponzi scheme. Maybe there isn't as much gold as they're selling us here. Maybe there's a lot more paper gold than there actually is physical gold. And that's why there's a warning here, and also the news. The gold rush has begun. As the trust of the global wealthy in central banks is dwindling, there's a flight to safe assets. And here, gold is also a safe haven. In my opinion, Bitcoin is also a safe haven here. As I said last year, financial repression is the only way to delay a debt spiral that either leads to a depression or a restructuring of the base. Only buy physical gold and keep it in self-custody. The same goes for Bitcoin. When you buy Bitcoin, you not only need to have self-custody, that's the big recommendation, because what's being predicted here is financial repression. That means we have a falling dollar, we have a falling euro, a failing system, and it might be that this will stabilize things a bit through the Department of Government Efficiency. Then you end up selling yourself off for another 2, 3, 4 years. But in a declining monetary system, the government has to become overreaching at some point. It needs to be confiscated. There need to be capital flight controls put in place. Maybe they need to go after gold. They need to go after real estate, stocks, whatever. You start with the low-hanging fruit. Those are just the real estate and the savings accounts. Next up might be gold or stocks. I don't know. Historically, you really haven't seen much or ever of stocks being expropriated. With gold, we've already seen gold bans. We've also seen Bitcoin bans before. But we all know it's ridiculous to ban Bitcoin here. And all of this can be traced back to this news. Says here, South Korea's mint halts gold bar sales as supply tightens. So the supply is getting smaller and smaller here. There's less and less gold because central banks are buying gold. Now the retailers want to buy gold. We're seeing the gold price rising. We've often seen that when the gold price moons, Bitcoin tends to follow suit because gold is also an indicator. It's a signal that shows global uncertainty. And this global uncertainty is very likely. Bitcoin is also being strengthened. Even Larry Fink says that Bitcoin has now become a flight to quality and that Bitcoin is a crisis asset, benefiting from global weakness, from global chaos. Cathie Wood is saying here that Bitcoin will rise to $1.5 million. The probability has now increased again. Listen to why she's so ultra bullish on Bitcoin right now and even revised her forecast upward. Maybe just a quick note before we dive in. Here's the forecast from the new Big Ideas report. Here you can see that there are basically 3 price targets. Here we have 300,000 US dollars by 2030. That's the bear case. Then 710,000 by 2030. That's the base case. And then we have the bullish case, 1.5 million by 2030. And we see that at 1.5 million, we would have a compound annual growth rate of 58% on average. That means we definitely need to break out a bit more to the upside here. We would need to have a very, very solid foundation here, or we would need a few years where it really goes up massively. So, the base case would be pretty chill at around 40%. That means, right now, I think we've had a compound average growth of almost 50% over the last 4 to 5 years. So, we'd be looking at diminishing returns in the base case, and in the bear case, that would be, well, yeah, I just call it a joke, that would be a 21% compound annual growth. Michael Saylor thinks that this will only happen in 10 to 15 years. But now listen.
We'll jog over to another part of the big ideas that I know many people enjoy, and that is about crypto assets or digital assets. And you'll see how we get to our base case for the Bitcoin price and our bull case. Many people know us for our bull case, $1.5 million. And we actually think the odds have gone up that our bull case will be the right number because of what is becoming the institutionalization of this new asset class. So many institutional investors are now looking at Bitcoin and thinking that they need to add it to their asset allocation because its return profile looks so much different and its risk profile looks so much different from all of the other assets in their portfolios.
Adoption at the institutional level in the form of various companies. Also, Metaplanet, which has now made massive gains, is the best performing stock in Japan. There are more and more copycats of MicroStrategy, and those institutions, according to Cathie Wood, need allocations. Sure, they don't all need a 100% allocation or leverage like MicroStrategy, but they at least need a 1, 2 to 5% allocation. And she says the same thing here. Bitcoin has a different return profile. This means that on the one hand, Bitcoin clearly outperformed, for example, classic stocks, but on the other hand, it had extreme volatility, although it was somewhat decoupled. Of course, it was connected to the global financial market, but it was not as correlated with other assets. That's why Bitcoin is good here, to refresh a portfolio, to hedge a portfolio. And also, the risk profile of Bitcoin is really, really good because we've often seen that while it does drop during a crisis, it tends to recover faster. There's also the BlackRock report. And here goes the ARK report again. One thing is for sure, the risk profile of Bitcoin is just really, really unique. And as an institutional player, you definitely want a very, very diversified portfolio. Above all, you want a portfolio with a good Sharpe ratio. That means you'll be adding assets that lower your volatility while boosting your overall return and also reducing the risk per invested unit. And that's exactly what Bitcoin can do, but only if you make small allocations to it. If the allocations then exceed 5% or something like that, then the Sharpe ratio gets a bit worse again because the volatility becomes too great. And that's always a horror for institutional investors, although that shouldn't be a problem for you because you can wait it out because you simply hold your Bitcoin long enough and simply know that you should hold Bitcoin for a minimum of 4 to 5 years. And that's the bullish case here, from Cathie Wood. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you can get on board with this or if you think it's too bullish. Or maybe you even say, hey, Cathie Woods is a permanent resident here, what's going on with her? I'm actually way more bullish on this. Guys, if you want to buy some Bitcoin for whatever reason, just check out link. You can easily and securely buy Bitcoin there. And here with the code Bitcoin Hotel, you can get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin. Are you guys getting this? Here's the moon. Let me know in the comments if you think we'll see Bitcoin mooning soon.